Let's introduce myself. I'm Edwin Wise. I like to think about information, and this is about that. Press the key. Timing through, making sense of difficult data. Once upon a time, the world seemed like a very simple place, though it was very mysterious and still somewhat scary. And these days, it's obvious that the world is not very simple. There is a lot of data out there. The more you know, the more you realize you don't know. And back in the day, all the knowledge was carried forward through the culture as stories. The oral tradition was king, and your identity as a culture, as a people, were tied up in these stories. But it's not very good for fidelity. It doesn't scale very well. It's very small. Then we learned how to write it down. And now we have better fidelity, and the information carries forward through the group, to farther groups, to distant areas. It has durability. It goes through time, but it still doesn't scale very well. You can only write down so many scrolls before your hand cramps and you have to take the day off. So then we have the printing press. Bang, scaling and distribution. Information goes everywhere. You still have the problem of people don't really read that much, but now they have the ability to send the information, but we lose some ease of entry. Not just anybody can print a book. Every time you have a solution, we find another problem. Electronic documents bring the hope, the possibility of anybody can create any kind of information. You can send it anywhere, but when we started, there was no awareness of this. There was no access. You couldn't get to it. The formats were all broken. We have more information, but it's all scattered. And then the internets begin. Gopher and Telnet, we have access to things. We have entry points into government databases that you didn't even know existed, and you can find things. Or actually, you can't find things unless you know somebody who gives you the address, because there's no way to discover things until you find hyperlinks in the web. Pow! Everybody has access. You can track through and find related information, but only based on the links that were created by the authors. And then more and more pages hit, more overload, and discovery starts to suffer. And sipping from the fire hose. I mean, there's so much out there, so many pages. Everybody and their dog has something. They're all trying to sell you something. It's a mess. What do? You can't find anything now. It's all there. You know it's there, but how do you get it? And then the search engines step up. Pow, Yahoo, and Google, and whoever all else. You can discover things. It improves the signal to noise. You can find what you're looking for in theory if you know how to do it, whatever. But you fragment the web again. All those links, all those associations that were built into the web pages are now broken apart by the search engines. Now we have new forms of putting in information, even more data, the wikis and the blogs, and they start linking in their wikis and in their blogs other things they find is interesting. Now they're trying to make sense of the information, but then how do you find them? There's just more information, all the redundancy, all the overload. We have the mashups, some beautiful mashups we're seeing in these other systems where you can take information from other databases and make them clear and obvious, but again, more information, but harder and harder to find. Search engines are great, but they're overloaded. The links in a web page don't make much difference. So now we have these tools that provide a semantic overlay on the internet. You have the tagging databases. We can walk in and say, oh, this means this to me, this means this to me, and then you can look at other people's tags. How does Sean see the web? I can go to his tag database. There are also other efforts to try to embed semantic information into the web pages, to rewrite the web. That's not going to happen because it requires you to rewrite the web. We have an we're invested in what we have. So what about, instead of rewriting the web, we give more databases that overlay on top of the web that give you linking ability. So instead of having the links in the web page fixed and static, like you can tag any page, you can link pages together and say why they are associated. What is the semantic relationship between these pages? And then if you can do that, why not add the ability to comment on any page? Tag it, comment it, link it, say how it fits into the bigger picture of data. Everything is on the internet. All the government, all the everything is on the internet. So why not give us access to putting it together? And that's where we get the idea of the illuminated document. And I'm talking about internet, but there is the application for it in, like, say, the federal budget, which is a ridiculous document. If we could break it apart into small pieces, give people the ability to tag it and link it and echo it, it drove me into my own project, which I started this year, of the .wiki and the .database, where you have it. You can take all this content and you break it apart, you can mirror it, you can manage it, and there's little pieces like the search engines give you. But from that, you can then link it together, embed it into mashups of data, or link it by way of linking database. You can tag it, you can comment on it. What you're doing then is you're taking and giving context and meaning to all this information that's scattered out there on the internet. And everything. What we're doing is we're taking this obscure and difficult mass of data, all the redundancy, and illuminating it, making it make sense in context and with our own interpretation. And for that to work, of course, anybody can do this, and that's the problem. We get another information explosion, so we have to have community. You have to have a persistent identity so that what you're saying, people have a reason to believe you, to have some interest in what you're saying. Otherwise, it's just more noise, and we don't need more noise. So identity, reputation, and community of information. Thank you.